Good morning. I will call the regular Cook County Board of Commissioners this morning on Tuesday, January 13th. We start our meeting with the pledge, so please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to have a discussion, if we may, on the request for proposals for photographs for the Community Resource Directory.
Okay. And where would you like to put that? We
Well,
can have it,
Wherever you think appropriate. I mean, it could come, I suppose, at the point
yeah,
at administrators.
would have been, okay, sure. Okay. And then I have something too, so make a note of that. Since we're going to have a closed session today to make it maybe a little bit smoother, the item is 8 for closed session. We're going to go ahead and have 9, Auditor Power, go ahead with the audit, and then have our closed session, and then we'll end with the administrator update. Makes it a little bit smoother so you're not jerky. So that is the only one that I have. If there's any other adjustments?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this time, we do offer public comment for anyone that wants to appear before the board, and I don't see anybody out there that wants to do that this morning, but does the board have any comments they've received?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you on that. So we will continue with the agenda. The agenda items today, we start with the claims, the minutes, permit for a raffle for Flintlock Range Association, MnDOT, DNR Off-Highway Trails Assistance Program, resolution for Minnesota DNR Snowmobile Trail Assistance Program, solid waste hauler license renewal, approval of the hire of Sarah Dragswiek as behavioral health and services clinical manager, approve the hire of Jesse Kimball as maintenance worker 2, approve the promotion of Emily Westerlund as assistant county attorney 2, approve the retirement of Tim Nelson as of April 3rd, appoint Sheila Wieben for Cook County Board of Adjustment, appoint Eric Ternes as ALS Governing Board. Does anyone have anything they'd like to pull or discuss? Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull item C, permit for a raffle for Flintlock Range Association.
Okay.
And that could just maybe precede the Cook County Wolf and Beaver WID.
Around that time, okay. And did you have an item, Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull item D and I. D is Minnesota DNR Off-Trail Highway Trails Assistance Program, and I is approve the promotion of Emily Westerlund to Assistant County Attorney.
Okay. So perhaps that D could come after the Wolf and Beaver while?
That's fine.
Okay, and then G, or I would be,
That could go with administrator as well, but
okay,
if we don't
sure.
want to push it out that long, but it's just a
Okay.
question.
that's,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fine.
Okay,
And with that, Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes unanimously. So now we'll move into item number 4, Cook County Wolf and Beaver Addendum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Dwayne Pete Saher on the phone. He is the Assistant District Supervisor for the USDA Wildlife Services Program in Grand Rapids. He recently reached out to me to advise us that they're working on renewing their work initiation documents with all of the county operators. We have previously had work initiation documents in place with them, and it's to conduct the beaver and wolf damage control operations and wolf research operations on county property and roadways. So I will turn it over to him for any additional updates regarding the WIDs.
Hi, thanks everyone. This is Pete. So what we're trying to do is reestablish these work initiation documents, or WIDs, with all of our cooperating counties. Right now we've got, so what we do is we do the wolf control program for the state, we do wolf research trapping, and we do beaver damage management in the state. So any property that we work on, we have to have one of these work initiation documents in place, or a WID we call them. So the WIDs are good for 5 years once they're signed, and it basically just gives us permission to work on that county-owned property. So we have these established with, I believe, 22 counties in northern Minnesota right now. So basically what it does is it just makes it easier and more streamlined when we get a call for, say, beaver management. We do a lot of work for Superior National Forest. I don't know how much county-owned property there is in Cook County, but it would just basically give us permission to access those properties. So basically, if there's a beaver dam, causing problems for Superior National Forest or the state of Minnesota or whatever, and the stream happens to flow through Cook County property, if we get a complaint where we need to remove a beaver dam or trap beaver, it would basically give us permission to work on that property. We have these agreements in place with, like I said, Superior National Forest. We have a statewide WID that covers all state-owned property. So, like I said, we're just trying to establish these or reestablish them with all of our county cooperators. Any questions?
Administrator Treble, did you have a comment?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Pete, this is Commissioner Gamble. I just had a question that, is your program a program where you initiate, or are you responsive to concerns that are brought to your attention?
No, we're totally responsive to complaints or concerns that we get. Like I said, if maybe beaver are flooding some Superior National Forest property and they want the beaver removed, yeah, we don't initiate any of the work.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so another example would be if Grand Portage wanted us to radio collar some wolves for them. We've got the equipment and the personnel, so we could contract with them. And if there was any Cook County property in there, that would just give us access to that property also.
Any further comments or questions?
Make a motion to approve the USDA Wildlife Services Program WID and WID addendum.
I'll support. Go ahead.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same
Madam Chair, I
sign.
did have a question, another question for
Motion
Pete.
passes unanimously.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Commissioner
Excuse me.
Gamble.
Yeah, Pete, just want to know, I think in looking at that agreement, that the information that is gathered, that information is information that we can get a hold of? Is that correct?
Yes, yep.
And I think I saw in there that it said that this information is something that can be shared, so that if we're interested to understand how this is working and the extent of the effect of wildlife on properties and things, it does say, I think, in the next paragraph, that there's no penalty or consequences for not providing that information.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If at any time you want to know, okay, how many projects have you done where you're trapped on Cook County property, we could certainly provide anything like that. We can't provide some specifics that may that may expose personally protected identification, landowners' names, anything like that. But as far as, the information is freely available.
All right, thank you.
And this can be canceled by either party anytime. It's not a legal commitment or anything like that.
Well, thank you for giving us the information. I do see that it is valid for 5 years. So then
Correct.
will you come back with another request?
Yep, in 5 years we'll do this over again.
Okay. All right, thanks so much for giving the info.
You bet. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, emergency management. We're going to have a Firewise
Did you have
coordination
something you had
report
pulled?
by Mike Keyport.
We can do it after, Mike.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, community members.
Good morning.
Morning.
As I'm sure you all know, we've had a very robust, I will say, Firewise program within Cook County for quite a number of years. I don't know the exact number of years, but it's been going for quite a number of years. That coordination of the Firewise program has fell under emergency management over that time. Because it is such a time-consuming position, we have over the years chose to hire an outside contractor, a coordinator, if you will. We've done that for, again, quite a number of years. I would explain something. You'll see in the contract that it lists Paramount Planning Group as our contractor. Paramount Planning is a regional planning company. Although it's a company, we are assigned a single person for this coordination job. His name is Steve Van Ketrix. He's a former emergency manager. And I say former because he retired from emergency management and law enforcement, resides in Lake County, knows our county very well. We had this contract with the same person and company last year. The few years before that, we had another contractor and things weren't as smooth as they went this past year. This guy really stepped up to the plate and kept our program as it should be. Just a real personable person. You can tell by the description of services that there's a lot of work that goes on in Cook County when it comes to Firewise, and it really is making a difference in Firewise protection and reduction in our county. Is there any questions regarding the contract, Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment and let you know that I've had a lot of opportunity to work with Steve, not only in Firewise, but through lake associations and road associations, and people in our community really enjoy working with him. He's great with follow-through, and I am just excited that we have the opportunity to continue with that Paramount planning.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just for the public, Brady, the funding of this is not funded through levy dollars. It is coming through,
We've paid for it through our Title III funding, which is a federal payment in lieu.
right, so that money, those federal dollars are dollars that are allocated for things like this. And so the annual contract for $44,000 is covered under those,
Well, we've talked about if we're close to running out of those funds,
yes.
unless we see what the renewal is, if it's substantial, what it used to be. We've already made the discussion to use that out of the timber funds
Yes,
that we have, so we're covered for this year
yeah.
with those funds.
So just for the public to be aware that the $44,000 for this program, which is operating well and people are appreciating the services provided, that those dollars are not dependent upon levy, but those dollars are coming through federal funding, which this year it's covered in 2026. Moving forward, we'll see if those funds are replenished or not, so.
Yeah, and over and above the Title III funding, we also secured a DNR Forest Service grant that a lot of the work that you see in the description was done in 2026. I believe that funding has to be used by June of this year, if I'm remembering correctly. Furthermore, you'll see listed in there, and I apologize for the acronym, but the CWPP, the County Wildlife Protection Plan. Steve and I very recently, in the last few weeks, applied for another grant to get grant funding to update that plan. That plan was last updated in 2017, and it is recommended that that plan be updated every 5 years. And there is some cost to it, so we are looking to secure another grant to update that plan.
Commissioner White?
So how are we, so how are we going to save our animals?
Save our animals.
Well, I don't know, this is in protection of the wildlife? I mean, I'm being,
It's more it's not protection of wild, it's more protection of wildfire.
okay. From, do we concern ourselves then with, it's probably out of your wheelhouse, the habitat for the wildlife after the fact?
Some of the work that is done, Grand Portage, as you well know, does do, some of their forest reduction, timber removal is habitat for moose, for instance, and that's similar, that's very similar in Cook County here. Some of the especially now with the spruce budworm is the big thing going on now, so them trees are dying and need to be either taken down or removed, and so to me, whenever you move a large group of trees, you are creating habitat and allowing new growth to form, so it's good all the way around.
Any other comments? Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to express appreciation on behalf of taxpayers, the fact that you're resourceful in seeking funds and using funds that are not levy dependent. So this is an example of where we receive value that is because departments are working to secure those dollars on behalf of the citizens. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Cook County Firewise Program Coordinator Service Agreement with Paramount Planning.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and thank you for working with
Thank-
people too,
Yeah, for
going out
sure.
and finding folks.
Right? Yeah, for sure,
Appreciate that.
for sure. Want me to jump right into hazard mitigation?
You bet.
Our hazard mitigation plan by FEMA standards is to be renewed every 5 years. I worked for the Grand Portage tribal government last time we did this, 5 years ago in 2018 and 19. So I was familiar with the program on a tribal level and now again on a county level. Kind of sounding like a broken record to a lot of you that have been hearing about this. This process has been going on for well over a year, which in my opinion is too long, but that's another story. We did have in our county input meetings, we had some great stuff that was added to that plan. Even the contractors that helped us through this process commented on that for a small county, we got some great, we had 40-some people at one meeting, and they said, you don't see that in other counties. So what has happened in the last month or so is this plan is rewritten, went to the state of Minnesota Hazard Mitigation. They approved it. It went on to FEMA, and as you can see from your packet, that the letter came back to the state from FEMA, that they also felt that it met their requirements. So the final piece is a resolution from Cook County, a resolution from the Grand Portage tribal government, and a resolution from the city of Grand Marais, and then we have a new plan.
Sounds good. Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt our 2025 Cook County and Grand Portage Reservation Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Support?
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Now we're going to have a report on our equipment replacement schedule. Rowan is going to present that.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, today we have a request to approve the spending of budgeted MIS capital funds. And this is a long-standing practice from our department, and where we come forward per policy if we're going to spend budgeted funds for capital in excess of the limit that requires the board to look at it again. And we'd like the flexibility to do that so that we can order these laptops in a timely way and equipment as we need to. So the request is the approval to spend $96,350 in budgeted MIS capital funds for regular replacement of laptops, shared technology, and infrastructure across the organization as detailed below. And so that includes 35 laptops, regular laptops for staff, regular replacement following our replacement schedule, 3 MDCs, or mobile data computers, which are ruggedized laptops that are used by deputies, 1 large format printer that's shared by multiple departments, 3 switches that facilitate network traffic throughout different buildings, and 30 UPSs, which protect the laptops and other equipment that we purchase. With that, I'd stand for questions.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We discussed this at length during our 2026 budget process. I would make a motion to approve the expenditure of $96,350 in budgeted MIS capital funds for regular replacement of laptops, shared technology, and infrastructure across the organization as detailed in the attached document.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So our second item today, I'll come up, call Jay forward here. We have a contract that's being amended, and it's really a contract between MnDOT and AT&T. But we have an underlying ground lease where we don't charge MnDOT revenue for their lease on our property. But what we do, and their reason for being there in the tower there is to facilitate armor and public safety. But what they do with us is they split all revenue that they generate from any subleasing on the tower with us. And this is a change to an existing sublease where they're adding more equipment, so MnDOT charges them more money, which in turn means the cost share that the county receives also goes up. So AT&T is adding equipment to the tower, which increases the load on the tower. MnDOT charges them accordingly for that. And because of the underlying ground lease, which is a 50-50 revenue split for the county, we also receive additional funds. And that, I'll let Jay speak in more detail to that, but that's broadly the agreement.
That was great. I don't have to really do much more. He pretty much handled it all. Madam Chair, Commissioners, as Rowan was saying, this is a long-standing lease that we've had. The amendment that we're signing right here reflects the added appurtenances, the added weight on the tower, and the market rate for those appurtenances. I worked with MnDOT to negotiate to make sure that this was reflecting current market rate for the towers across the state of Minnesota. And it's about a 20% increase in what we'll get over the year. We receive this money in one lump sum from the Department of Transportation at the beginning of each year. And this will be extendable for 25 years, which is typically the length of these cellular contracts. The annual increase on this is 3.5%, which is very generous. So we'll continue to benefit the county throughout the length of the lease. So I'll stand for any questions as well.
If I could, Madam Chair, I'd just add that where the funds go to our tower capital. And so this is a fund that we allocate for replacement of the county-owned towers that we have, so that when replacement is required of this infrastructure, we don't have to levy for it. So when we either work with MnDOT to sublet or we sublet on our existing towers, we pull that revenue into a capital account that is reserved to replace that infrastructure going out years and years in advance.
Commissioner White?
And just for the listening public, would you tell them what the approximate amount is for this year?
So
It's written in front of me, but
Yep, so the amount from the previous agreement was roughly $30,000 a year. That'll go up roughly 20%, so that'll get us into the $36,000 a year range. So overall, modest increase, but every little bit helps.
thank you.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is something that's being amended. Is it because we revisit it annually, even though we've set it up for a 25-year agreement?
This was
No.
queued because of the upgrade of equipment. So
Okay.
AT&T system-wide is moving off of their Nokia equipment, moving to a more effective, more efficient Ericsson equipment. And to do that and to increase the bandwidth in that area, they had to add additional radio heads and additional antennas. And so that's what triggered it. If they would have kept the number of antennas and radio units the same, then it would have just been the same agreement.
So the contract, the long-term contract is something that there's a provision in there whenever there's a change, that's when we sit down and renegotiate. Otherwise, the contract doesn't stipulate that we have to renegotiate if there's no change.
Exactly. They're allowed to maintain their equipment at the present level.
Yeah.
But if they add anything, then we have to, that triggers both a structural inspection on the tower to make sure that we're not exceeding the load, and then also a renegotiation of the contract amount,
Yeah.
because they're using more of the capacity of the tower.
That's a good agreement.
Yeah, I give Rowan a lot of credit for kind of creating the templates that the county's used for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And it's,
When
it
things
serves us
change,
well.
we should revisit. Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the negotiated contract amendment between Cook County, MnDOT, and AT&T.
I'll support.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move into human resources, we do have one item. We have three items, actually, but we have one item from the Agenda C that Commissioner Sullivan wanted us to listen to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I requested that we pull item C, which is a permit for a raffle for the Flintlock Range Association, because I am a member of Flintlock, and so I would like to recuse myself on that vote. No other reason for pulling that item.
Okay, thank you on that.
So did
Commissioner,
So we need a motion.
yes.
I'll make a motion to approve by resolution for the Flintlock Range Association raffle at Up Yonder on Friday, January 16th, 2026.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes unanimously. The other two items that Commissioner Gamble brought up will be done later. So right now, we're going to turn to human resources. And we're going to listen to adopting a personnel policy. Allison will lead us in that discussion.
You said 3 items, so I just kind of kicked my feet up back there. And I was like,
We're tricky.
good morning. All right.
Good morning.
So today I have to present to you another personnel policy. This is related to bereavement leave, or what's known as funeral leave, in our current handbook / personnel policy manual. There's a lot of changes going on, so we're kind of switching between some different lingos and whatnot. So just kind of some background just on policies in general. So I think several of you are aware, just within some of the conversations that are occurring in our committee work, that we're doing a pretty big revamp, focus on our policies, how they're structured, the template in which they're provided. So that's where it was the employee handbook. We're now calling it a personnel policy manual, and how that's being provided to staff. And then we just have a lot of policies that have not been reviewed or touched in, dare I say, decades. And so slowly working through, that's a big task, a big focus of mine right now, is inventorying our policies, figuring out what we have, what needs to be updated, what we don't have that we should have, and all of these different things. So really just a big puzzle. And one of the policies that was identified to be updated even before I moved into the HR director position was our current funeral leave policy, to be renamed bereavement leave. That had been identified as a policy that was due for review and updates through the Labor Management Committee, which is comprised of administration and the 3 bargaining units and their representatives. And from there, we bring the union's administration collectively bring forth topics that the staff would like to address and work on. And one of the policies that came up was, hey, how about the funeral leave? Why don't we take a look and see, there's some updates, maybe days, the scope of family members, things like that could be adjusted. So work on that policy had started, again, before I moved into this position. And then I believe kind of a final draft had been derived, and then it just kind of fell to the wayside with everything else going on with previous Administrator Yorkie, and just general transitions and changes in staffing and the board. So we are now here ready to bring you our proposal for the bereavement leave policy. This has gone through review with Personnel Committee, LMC, the MAT team. So we're in a place where we feel comfortable that everyone is in agreement that these are the updates that we would like to see for the policy. I would like to mention, I printed off, because it's always good to reference, like, what has changed. So in our current policy for funeral leave has 2 sentences to it. This proposed policy is clearly a little bit more substantial, because we need some of that extra context. So the main changes that we see in this one is our current funeral leave policy allows up to 3 days off for the event of a death of a family member. And the family member listing was pretty limited in our current policy. Basically, it limits it to a spouse or children, parents, grandparents, or siblings. And so it doesn't even account for a domestic partner. Or what about in-laws, which are really close as family members? So what we did is, in the proposed policy, is we're looking at allowing up to 4 days, so increasing, again, that from 3 days to 4 days. And this was important because what came up in the conversations is, because of where we live, it takes a long time to drive anywhere. And so for the 3 days that were previously allowed, then the travel time tended to kind of suck up those days. So we're kind of figuring about a day extra to account for basically up to a day of potential travel for that. We're also expanding the qualifying members that would be considered family members. And consistency in language is important as we work through and revise our processes. So the definition of a qualifying member that we used in this policy is consistent with the definition laid out in the Minnesota paid leave policy. That's in statute, and then we incorporated that into our county policy. So again, because a lot of these things that we're going to see, potentially people taking, requesting the Minnesota paid leave benefit for, is, say, one of these individuals that potentially may then end up being bereavement leave, unfortunately, because the Minnesota paid leave program allows people to take time off, request paid leave to care for a qualifying family member. So it was important to still be consistent with who is covered, who's considered a family member. And families now these days, family units these days are not the cookie cutter 1950, 1960 family units. So they're very diverse. It doesn't mean that you have to be a blood relative. And so we've included that in there because there are members of our household that we do consider family members that aren't necessarily blood relatives. And we wanted to make sure we accommodated that when people do request bereavement leave. So I maybe provided a lot of context, but I think that that's important to understand, not only for you all, but for employees and individuals watching, of like why we're making these changes. And we think a lot about the changes that we incorporate and how they impact our staff.
I appreciate that, because I was thinking about family paid leave now. This is a good time to, when we incorporate that, then we review this. So I appreciate your wider, broader possibilities of people who might be affected.
And Madam Chair, if I may,
Administrator
thank you. Thank you, Allison. I wanted to also mention that Allison and I have talked about the potential of her attending the next COW meeting to talk about the process that we're using for all of these policy reviews. She had mentioned, having everything vetted by the Personnel Committee and Matt. So we want to talk about how we're addressing the HR policies as we move forward. So more to come on that, but since she mentioned it, I thought I would add a little more context to it.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the fact that we're revisiting policy and updating. It's not like there's not a lot to do, but policy is foundational to the culture that you develop, so it's important. I would also say that when you're looking at bereavement, I mean, there are other provisions that we have in our benefits that allow for someone that loses someone that's close to them. This is specific in addition to the other provisions that are benefits to those that we employ within the county. When it comes to bereavement, it's like the world really should stop. And unfortunately, it doesn't, but for the individual that lost somebody, it has. And so I think it is a statement that recognizes that for the people that serve us, that we make this provision. So this is an area where empathy and regard is hugely important. I think if you look in the public and the private sector, that you'll find that this range of bereavement as far as days, it ranges between 3 and 5 days. It'd be interesting to know when this benefit is used, the extent of the number of days that we see are typically used. The other thing is that I think we should be aware of as employees of the county is that bereavement is something that is not unique to county employees. And that's a statement that doesn't necessarily need to be made, except for the fact that it's saying that all of us in life, when we experience loss like this, that we have a provision, which is a benefit, that we should appreciate the benefit that is provided. Because in the private sector, individuals, they deal with it how they deal with it, and there's no provision. So the 2 points is, I think it's important as a county to demonstrate in our policies that we value our employees and we make these provisions mindfully and intentionally, but also recognize that it is something that can be unique to people that do not have this benefit. So,
Any further questions or comments? I will make a motion to adopt the personnel policy as written.
support.
We'll call for a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, if I may just ask one clarification. It sounds like the impetus to revisit this, it was already in the works. It wasn't something that had been negotiated through our union negotiations that we were lax on and did not include. It was just that we're picking up on something that had been identified. So again, its origins are coming from the standpoint we want to revise and look at all of our policies.
Yes, yes. So all of our policies at some point, and that's what I'm working on and hope to provide more context next week at the COW, is I do have intentions of reviewing all of the policies. This one just happened to have already been kind of in a long-term pending status, and we needed to make sure, not only because we were getting a lot of questions from staff that knew we were working on this, like what's the status, it was really important to wrap this one up and no longer have it in this kind of long pending delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just had
Yep.
question from the public wanting to know what precipitated that, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said, the timing was very appropriate with the family paid leave, so, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question since I'm here, and I do know that Commissioner Gamble pulled Emily Westerlund's promotion from the consent agenda.
Okay.
If you wanted to,
Sure.
I didn't know if there were questions that I'd be able to address. If you wanted to talk about that item now?
Sure. I mean, it's fine
Yes.
if it's fine with
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
So the reason that I pulled it is because it's a broader issue relative to our policy. And in this situation, it was an internal hire, and we chose not to offer the position. And so when we've had discussion about hires moving forward, we've said, do we, post this position, or do we hire internally? And I think my response in that discussion has been that if we are intentional in succession planning, that I'm entirely comfortable supporting what we are trying to do, because we have institutional knowledge that carries with that person, and we've had opportunity to see the abilities.
Yeah.
So because we're seeing different approaches, I'm just wondering where we're going to land on this.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamble, for your question. And this was posted, but it was posted internal only. And so to your point, we have used a variety of different ways in which we're posting our positions. Sometimes we're posting external, and sometimes we're posting internal to Cook County employees. But I just want to mention that because we're always posting the position to provide opportunities, either internally or externally. And this was a decision that our county attorney had made in consultation with Allison and myself about if this should be an internal or an external promotion. And based on that discussion, we did determine that we would post internal to provide a promotional opportunity for staff within the county attorney 1 classification. Certainly when you post internal, that doesn't mean that there will be any applicants. So had we not received any applicants, then we would have gone to an external posting.
And thank you. And as a follow-up, it's a matter of understanding what informs the decision we make on whether it's internal or external. And I think it should be, the policy should be informed by our intention. If we feel we have a qualified individual and we have all of the different things that we look when we make this evaluation, we can make a decision out of convenience, we can make a decision out of cost and budget, we can make a decision about timeline, whatever. But I just think it's important because we have a number of different positions and there's discussion how we're going to do this.
Yeah, and I can add to that, and then I'll turn it over to Allison and our county attorney here as well. But what I would say is we're always looking for skill and opportunity. So we want to make sure that the person that, the candidates that we may have as viable options for the position have the skill for the position, that they meet the minimum qualifications as outlined in the job description and in the posting. And also opportunities. We're looking for opportunities for growth and development for our staff. My personal opinion is if you can hire from within, you should, because that's ensuring that staff are supported, that there's continuous opportunities for growth and development for them. Sometimes, like we all just saw with our PHHS director position, we might go through an external position and still hire internally. So again, for me, it's based on those criteria. Budget, of course, is always a factor, but I am always looking at what are the skills and opportunities for staff first.
And I say that simply because we have a retirement and a position, so we're looking at some major departments where we're seeing, the need to fill position and how we go about doing that. Just wanted to know the consistency. I agree that it's the skill is number one. I think that certainly relationship and knowing an individual, that there can be a draw to want to put that person in a position, but number one, they need to meet the requirements of the position, and the other can be considered to be value added, so.
Attorney Peterson?
Thank you, Chair. I would just build off of that and say that, I've had the opportunity to observe Ms. Westerlund's skills over the last year, and they've been exemplary. She has walked into a pretty heavy role. We have a lot of moving pieces in the county at any given time. The caseload is so varied across civil and criminal cases, and then within the criminal caseload, she's worked misdemeanor to felony cases, some of them very complex. So I've seen her dedication, her work ethic, and her actual work is exemplary. I do agree also with Administrator Treble about the opportunities for hiring internally and rewarding work that has been done that is professional and timely. And I would also add that as far as continuity of service to the county, when you look at moving someone who's already aware of the ongoing cases, who is already familiar with the different agencies that we collaborate with and aware of other county employees, and has maintained a very good professional working relationship with those. There's a continuity of service there that just would not happen, especially given the quick turnover with our former ACA 2 position. And frankly, we just don't have the time right now for that. So there was a little bit of convenience in that determination, but that convenience is only built off of the skills that she's exhibited.
Sure. And I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, this has nothing to do with this particular. This is just an opportunity to address the broader approach that we take relative to policy and hiring. So, thank you for the discussion.
And Madam Chair, if I can just add one more comment, and that's that we are having conversations about every position that's open and making sure that we're engaging in the criteria for whether we're going to post this internal or externally. So we are ensuring that we're very intentional about the process we're using.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the discussion. With that, Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the promotion of Emily Westerlund to Assistant County Attorney 2.
Sullivan?
I second that motion.
I'll call for a vote unless there's any other questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gamble, did you have another personnel question?
No, I didn't. There was another item that I had
Okay,
pulled.
we'll move that to
Oh,
Administrator.
I was going to say, since Mitch is here, I'm wondering if that's why he's here, is for...
I was asked to be here for that very reason.
It might have been.
I see. I'll just stay out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was item,
Aye?
Aye.
Yeah.
no, that,
Or
item
no,
E.
D,
D?
Yes, right.
Thank you.
Minnesota DNR Off-Highway Trails Assistance Program.
Okay, you want to proceed then?
Sure. And that was just a question for clarification. In reading the resolution, is it says that now on this resolution, paragraph 3, Trails Assistance Program for fiscal year 2022. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah. So I just called into question the date that we referenced there, given the fact that we're renewing this and making this
Yeah, that's-
resolution on the 13th of the 2026.
That needs a correction.
Yeah, all right. That's why I pulled it.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the resolution with the correction.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Support, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously with that correction.
All dressed up for next.
Okay.
Thanks for showing up.
Now, we're finished with the consent agenda. Okay. Then we're going to move over closed session to,
I believe Auditor Treasurer, you had moved him up.
right,
Right.
to hear from Auditor Powers on audits.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is, we have an engagement with our audit firm, and we've been doing it year by year. So this year, I'm asking for a two-year engagement with Redpath. We're very satisfied with their work. They've helped us a lot in making strides ourselves, and as I mentioned often, we save money compared to our state audits, and that continues here. They've been reasonable, very reasonable in their proposal here for the next 2 years. Next year, the main audit costs, the request is about a 5% increase, and then the following year, 3%. And when you factor in that some of the other costs, such as if they have to do additional work, there's always some additional work, they've left that figure the same. So overall, it's about a 4.7 for 2026, and then about 3% for 2027.
So my question is that we're finished with 25, 26, so then the next one will be
Yeah,
28?
well,
27, 8?
it's confusing. We just finished the 2024 audit, so in
24.
2026,
Okay.
we'll be doing the 25 audit, and then in 2027, we'll be doing the 2026 audit. So
Okay.
it's for the next 2 audit years.
Next to, okay, just so we're on the same page with all these dates. Okay. Questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brady. This was something that had been discussed in previous term, and I appreciate what you identified here in your summary, which I think is beneficial for the public, that the main goal in making this transition, which you indicated this morning in 2027, the state allowed us to be able to.
2017, yeah.
2017, yes.
Yeah.
And the main goal is to engage with a firm that has the time to provide thorough explanations of their work, which helps us to learn and prepare better for each audit. And the other was just fiscal stewardship, financial of taxpayer dollars. And you reference it as significant, and in our discussion, it's a savings of $20,000 to $30,000. So basically, that's a win-win.
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 over what we were paying.
Yes.
And if you projected that out, of course, there would have been increases there. So it's more than that
Yeah,
in reality. So.
yeah. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, prior to that, some large counties did private audits, but that was totally at the Office of the State Auditor's decision. They made that decision that, and it wasn't until 2017 that they allowed county boards to make that decision across the state.
Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to use Redpath and Company for the 2025 and 2026 audits.
Commissioner White?
I'll support.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So at this point in our meeting, we're going to be going into a closed session. As recommended that the board close the meeting as permitted by Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 and Subdivision 3B Attorney-Client Privilege to address threatened pending litigation. So at this time, we will be closing.
Do we need a
it.
motion to go into that?
Yes,
I'd
we
make
do.
a motion to go into the closed section.
Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So we will be closed until we return after our closed session. We are back from our closed session, and I'll have a motion to reopen our board meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we're going to move on now to Administrator Report. Commissioner Treble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of items today, so I'll start at the top, which is the proposal to update the county capital improvement plan. And as you are all aware, we do have a capital improvement plan that was finalized, I believe it was in 2024, and the plan has been paused since then. However, we have made some changes to the courthouse, and some include space in the basement for PHHS, and we've made some other small changes as well. And so what we'd like to do at this point is to have BKV update the capital improvement plan, given those changes, given what we know about court security needs as well. And so we met with them to talk about what would it look like to update that plan, and so they provided a proposal to us, and that is what's attached in your board materials. And what they're asking for is an amount of not to exceed $15,700 for that work. It outlines what the steps are that they would take, which includes a kickoff meeting and other meetings to walk through the building and meet with a core team to look at what changes we would want to see made to that plan so that we have a viable solution for our capital improvement plan as we move forward. And I want to make sure that Brady has an opportunity to add any information as well, as he was part of the scoping meeting with BKV.
No, nothing really.
Okay. So that's what I have to share today about the CIP.
Well, I think we do have the beginnings. We had quite a outline of having a justice center at one point, and that didn't work out. So I think we have some considerations here with the building that we've already, like you mentioned, we've improved the basement, and now moving into other areas is important to have a discussion about. So, Commissioner White?
Why do we need them? Why do we need them? Because I recall what they put out to the public, the amount of monies that they were suggesting could be spent in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, I was focused on the outlying, on the town halls. Neither one has septic or plumbing, and just the suggested renovations, which, when one were to really look at the facilities, they were bogus. It was like, there's no reason to replace a wooden floor that has been taken care of, and there's no reason. But I'm very cynical about consultants. You tell the consultants what you're looking for, and they will unbelievably come back and give you whatever you told them you needed. They will find you the justification for it. And I believe that with the hiring of Brooke, and we do have the software, I'm making the assumption that he has been inputting the changes as he's gone along, that I believe it was excuse me, it was Brooke and I don't know whom else came up with the idea of let's renovate the space under this building, which in the beginning was like, look, I don't even remember now if BKV looked at it, but it was like, no, we can't use that space. It leaks, it's whatever. Well, if it's leaking, then that should have been taken care of. But I don't believe that BKV, great consultants, they gave us pages and pages of options of things that were unnecessary. And then they threw in the possibility of maybe we should build a $32 million justice center and walk away from this building. It's sort of like a Monty Python moment. It's just like, no, this is just not sensible for the tax for this county, and for what we have, and for the people we have in this organization for our maintenance people and for the, all the players that we have, including MIS, and we can set everything up. And they, we don't need someone coming from the outside, whom I do not believe really they got us started, let's put it that way, for $222,000. We got lots of pages and colored pictures and options to build more buildings. But I do not believe they need to come back again. I really trust in Brooke in that department and other people to help us.
Are you thinking about CRBPS, not BKV?
I'm talking about the CIP. Who did the CIP plan?
BKV is who you worked with, and Henry Pittner.
Oh, Henry's great.
Sure, so that's who BKV is.
Oh. Sorry, everyone. I'm still stand firm with the people that did our CIP plan. We do not need them. But Henry, with the BKV group, they were the people that came and gave us ideas for the law enforcement, for that build-out, for those renovations. Yeah. Well, so now everybody knows how I feel about the CIP group, but BKV is 180 degrees different.
Administrator Turbo?
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner White. And I would just say that I agree Brooke has incredible skills, and he has been great at identifying what perhaps we could change with the plan. However, he is not an architect. So we really need an expert to help us to identify, as we make those changes to the plan, what can we do with the building given that? And so I anticipate that there would be some potential cost savings because, again, we have created some space in the basement. There are some other things included in the plan that we might not need as we move forward. And so we want to make sure that we're working with them to identify what those cost savings may be to update that prior plan. So I believe strongly that we do need this. The cost is very affordable in terms of a project like this. And they've been great to work with in the past and are very respected by the staff that they work with here in the building as well as the community, from what I understand or believe. So I do think this is necessary. I don't think this is something that we can do in-house with staff that we have on board.
When, now that I'm corrected, BKV and Henry, though Henry is now gone, they proved themselves to be remarkable, that they really trustworthy, as it were. And so, no, I would, $15,000 is, they have proven that they really cared about this community. That's all. So, yes.
Okay.
So, there we go.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the distinction should be that we identify what we think we need, and they identify how we get there. They help us in identifying how to get there. But I don't think in your first discourse, it was like they would project this, project that, project that. So if somebody comes in and says, you know, money's no limit, here's all the things you could do, we need to identify, and it's sort of like if you do an efficiency evaluation and you look at use of space and those things, we need to identify which is informed through our department heads and in concert with our facilities manager. And then when we say this is what we're thinking, we have people that have a broader context to inform us. So I think the distinction should be, we don't hire a consultant to tell us what we need. We hire a consultant to facilitate a process to get what we need through the most efficient methods. So.
And if I could just say one thing on the CRBPS, the main thing they were hired for was to determine the deferred maintenance on all the buildings. They're the experts on that, not your architects, actually. They're specialized in that. They did that. I think they did a great job on that. We went farther with them, asking them to do, let's say, pre-architecture planning. And they came up with a plan that the board asked them to do, so, which were not architecture plans. And then we would have went to the next step with an architect with those facilities that were being looked at that time, but that really wasn't their job, so.
If you remember, we went up through the courtroom, and toured everything, and we looked at safety, and we looked at expansion. It was important for the jurors and for the judges and for quality people getting together in smaller rooms. So we've already done all that. So,
Oh, no, I know,
yeah,
but the CIP plan was in place when I came on board. And then when Henry, and there was a discussion, the big, like, how do we change this courtroom? How do we go to, well, we should just build a new building. And, I was there for all those, and the spaces that we have. Let's hope no one's claustrophobic or,
Yeah.
but it's, right, but Henry and the architects were really a breath of fresh air.
Because they know, that's the point. Brooke is handy and does great things, but he's not the architect.
No.
Part, so that's where we.
And they
have to
come with the
decide.
engineering.
Yes, right, that's
Yeah,
why
and
we
he had
need to
an,
reach out.
he had an architect on that, the work in the basement,
Sure.
DSGW,
Right.
so.
Yeah. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We have done some things internally on some buildings that we've built that have not been good design. I'm thinking of the building that's up in your neck of the woods. When we built that building, I think some of the heating and some of the other things, and that.
The garage,
Yeah, and I believe that was a county administrator that
He was
believed-
going to
that
provide the
believed that
oversight,
they
and
knew
there-
what they were doing in that regard, respectfully stated. But the point is that you can't look at one situation and say that defines everything. But on the other hand, to be aware that we want to be sure that our processes are leading us where we're getting what we need and fiscally responsible. So that advice and counsel is important. We don't want to
Indeed.
just one-off.
And with the county garage out there, actually, I spoke with one of our ex-county employees who was there during the construction, who sent email after email saying, there's something very wrong, this isn't right, you've got to look at this. And the administrator, nothing was done with it. So
Yeah.
we have a building that could have been much better.
Yeah.
So to have somebody who actually has the expertise have oversight on it. And not our county administrator.
Definitely do not have those skills. We need an expert.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposal prepared by BKV Group to update our county capital improvement plan.
I'll support that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes unanimously. Okay, continue on, Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is the 2026 AMC voting delegate appointments. We discussed this at the annual planning meeting, and I think we landed on that I would come back with a recommendation regarding staff that we would have as the voting delegates. We have 8 slots, and so we had discussed having commissioners and then filling the last 3 with different staff. And so I had a discussion with some of our directors, and where we've landed is I would recommend Bob Thompson, Assessor Thompson, Tim Nelson or designee, and myself as the 3 voting delegates.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cook County's 2026 AMC voting delegate appointments as presented.
Support?
Any further questions on that? Yeah.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Gamble.
Chair. So can you restate that for me? When we're looking at the delegates, we're talking about delegates in regard to the committees or delegates independent of committees?
We can vote on the officers and the platform amendments of the AMC.
Okay, so it's not
not
distribution amongst the committees?
Correct. My understanding is that the committees we approved at the planning meeting, and that we were looking at the voting delegate assignments. And And just to explain more of what the process looked like, the reason we landed on the individuals we did is looking at the proposed legislation from the AMC and what we believe will be before the delegates for voting. The reason that I added myself as one of the potentials is so that the areas where we don't have a designee as an expert, then I would make sure to collect that information from our director that works within that space to make sure that I'm voting accordingly to not only what I believe, but also the director.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I was looking at it in the context of the committees and alignment in that regard, but that explanation gives me context to understand that, so thank you.
Okay.
Do you need a support yet?
Did we vote?
Oh, we haven't
vote?
voted.
No.
Commissioner
We're good.
Sullivan supported, is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So we need
Right,
to vote.
we're good. Okay.
Oh,
We need to vote.
yet.
Oh, okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
All right. So the next item is the letter of support for St. Louis County legislative priority, and this was an item that Commissioner Gamble had brought to our planning meeting as well. And so St. Louis County, their #1 legislative priority this next year is to support the Canyon Integrated Solid Waste Management Campus. We had pulled this from the last discussion so that we could reach out to Tim Nelson to ensure that there was support and to see if he had any additional information to provide. He didn't have a lot of additional information to provide, but did state that this had been discussed, and he reviewed the letter and did not have any concerns with it. So he said that he would support it. I also had a conversation with Dustin this morning from our waste management, and he also stated that he would support it. He also did mention that he has received notice that costs would be going up this next year, and so he is having some discussions with them and trying to negotiate different options to try to see if he can keep that cost down. But he said, related to the letter and moving forward with the waste management campus, that he was supportive of it. So I do believe that we've done our due diligence to make sure that staff and our waste management providers within the county are supportive of the letter.
Commissioner Mills?
Thank you for looking into that, and I'll make a motion to approve, sign, and submit the letter of support for St. Louis County's #1 legislative priority, Canyon Integrated Solid Waste Management Campus.
Support.
Commissioner Gamble, did you have any comments?
No, I just was going to make the motion, but the motion's been made by Commissioner Moore.
Okay.
Support the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, the next item is the 2026 Cook County legislative priorities, and I'd like to expand this topic a little bit and just make sure that the commissioners and the public are all aware of what the AMC, the Association of Minnesota Counties, federal and state legislative priorities are, and then I would like to discuss the city and Visit Cook County and the Chamber's priorities, and then have a discussion about ours. So wanted to ensure that all of you have the information. So for the public that is listening in, I have provided 2 different resources for the commissioners. The first one is the state legislative priorities, and the second one is the federal legislative priorities, both from AMC. And so I'll just walk through those briefly for you. The federal legislative platform, they have 5 different items that they're supporting this year. The first one is mental health treatment expansion. The second is jail health care. The third is simplified reassessments for home and community-based services. The fourth is SNAP services. And the fifth is Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act reauthorization. And then moving on to the AMC.
What is Medicaid?
Medicaid is in the state. Yep. So then moving on to the AMC state platform, The first one is technology modernization, the second is SNAP and Medicaid, and the third is the Minnesota African American Family Preservation and Child Disproportionality Act. So that is what we've received from AMC. We'll continue to track and monitor those items and make sure that the commissioners are aware of them, any updates to them, and if there are any changes, bring that forward to a meeting as well. And then with Visit Cook County, the Chamber, and the city, I had a conversation with John Burns, who is the Visit Cook County and Chamber's lobbyist. And what he has shared is their number one priority for this year is the wastewater treatment facility. And then they have 3 other priorities, but again, the number one that they're hoping to move forward with is the wastewater treatment. The second is the Gitchigami Trail, and it's specific to the Lutzen segment. The third is support for future funding for WTIP and working with WTIP's lobbyist. And then the last one is Lutzen Odyssey and the water district. So those are their top priorities. We did have a request from John Burns to submit a letter of support or a resolution for the wastewater treatment facility. I did follow up with Administrator Roth as well, and he was very encouraged that that we would be discussing having a potential letter of support or resolution and hoping that we might move forward. He did mention that he and/or Mayor Benson would be willing to answer any future questions or any questions that we have at a future meeting as well. I should also mention that John Burns in the discussion had originally asked for a letter of support specific to the wastewater treatment, but he did say that if we wanted to support their full portfolio, which are all 4 items, they would be supportive of that as well. So I would like to pause at this point and just have a discussion about the letter of support or resolution, if that is okay with you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the information. We all received this, I think, from NACO, National Association of Counties, that this Thursday, January 15th to 30, there'll be a webinar kicking off the new year with the federal policy updates, as well as a summary of the 2026 policy priorities that will shape advocacy moving forward. So when we look at, the public asks the question, well, who informs this as to what our priorities are? And you've addressed that the 87 counties through the Association of Minnesota Counties addresses what the priorities will be moving into the legislative session. You have the federal legislative priorities that are identified as well as the state, and then you have NACO, which is going to be addressing this, and some of it, Commissioner Storley's probably, aware of her participation in that. And then you've got the chamber and you've got the tourism. So that people can look at it and say, so where do we fit into this when it comes to priorities? I think the issue of the mental health, which is something that's on the radar, is certainly reflective of a need that exists within our community. I'm talking at the broader community. The other thing is that the technology relative to our public health and human services, that is so archaic in this state, and that is absorbing way too much time, which is tapping the energies and the mental capacity of our employees in that regard. So that is a huge issue. So I think, again, from the public standpoint, it would be good to hear what the public has to say as an entity in regard to where they would see priorities, and then also for us to link what has been identified through the Association of Minnesota Counties, through NACO, the National Association, and through entities like the Chamber and Tourism. But there needs to be the evidence of the public voice that identifies this is what we want our elected officials to contribute to when it comes to issues that we'd like to see addressed in 2026. It would be the ideal, and hopefully that there would be alignment on some of those things. And I think it's our responsibility to show where the public is evident in these things. It can be that when you look at the chamber, which is business focused, if you look at the tourism, that's tourist focused, and people want to see, well, where is my focus? and hopefully some of that is picked up in what we're seeing in what in the AMC and NACO has identified.
So Commissioner Gamble, I'm hearing that you want to have some type of public forum on these issues. How would you propose to do that?
Well, I think it would be good leading into identifying these things so that it's not a sense of a dutiful response, to let the public feel like they're informed. And we want them actually to inform. And so I think it should be something that we anticipate moving into the new year, knowing we're coming up on a legislative session, and see where we identify some things where we have that support when we explain it to the public, and have the public explain to us what they feel is important, if that makes sense. And I think the timeline on that is something that it should have happened prior to where we're at right now. Moving forward where we're at right now, I think it would be good if we did have a town hall meetings within the 5 districts outlining what we know, which we're discussing today, that would allow the public to weigh in and to explain to them what these headings actually mean. I think it's just good, and I think it cultivates a culture in which the public will feel included in these processes moving forward.
I think it's a good idea. I'm just wondering, since they elected us, we have all the background. We go to AMC, we sit here and visit, all of our prior, we put them in order. We say, I work with NACO on the Health Alliance areas. I'm just wondering, how much information then should we prepare to tell the public, and do they really care about the Lutzen Water District? If you live in Hovland, they care about the wastewater because everybody contributes to that in one way or another. Gitchigami Trail, that's in my district, we're all working on it as a township. WTIP, people have the opportunity to listen to it and donate as they go along. So I'm just wondering, how would you propose us to convince them, or to just say, this is the background on this WTIP, this is the background on that, without getting too lengthy? And I really feel, that we're the ones that they can reach out to individually, and I've had that. I'm sure all of you have had that too, so I'm just not sure where we would go with this. Commissioner White.
This presupposes, this goes back to the community out there, they don't really care what we think about anything. They don't care. The commissioners don't care. And they have for years felt excluded. Now, some of this, there's a responsibility for people. If they want to know something, they can reach out, they can pay attention. However, it seems as though a lot of people in this county are working, raising their children, doing whatever, and so they entrust their elected officials to make decisions for them. But be that as it may, I think there's not enough. I do not believe that our community feels as though they really have what they think or say or feel really matters to us. Maybe one-on-one, maybe there's a one-off, maybe there's whatever. But I believe there are more people that would want to know what's going on, and not to be talked to or taught or preached at, but to have an opportunity for a discussion. And we don't have to come and be the experts on all of these, but to have a community discussions. And one idea, which I know this is not what is recommended, but that community comments, we take in what they have to say, and we sit here and we go, thank you, and then you are dismissed. How about if we, since Cook County is so special, since I would like to foster more community conversations. If we had, for a set time during the committee of the whole, that we invite community people, and I'm sure there might be some legal things about this, to state what their concern is, and then to have a dialogue with us. Now, I say this with experience because back we go again to the school board. Even though the Minnesota School Board Association greatly did not recommend that a school board do this, to engage the public during community comments, we did it. We did it for a while. We didn't need law enforcement. Nobody was beating on the desks, but we were engaging in conversation in a portion of the school board meeting. So the community could really get their questions answered, like right now, like we're listening. And I believe that was beneficial. We didn't do it all the time, but I believe that it has value. And if people are willing to come here at 8:30 in the morning to get their 5 minutes, I believe it would only be respectful to give them an opportunity, if they show up here, to actually talk to us, with us, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't know the parameters of any of this. Now, maybe there's a legal reason we can't because it's not on the agenda, and what if we start talking about something? I don't know, but I feel I need, and I will speak for myself, to give the taxpayers, and not just those in Hovland, and I do think Hovland cares about the water in the West End, I really do, but to be listened to for their intake. I have a great, and the person will know about that I'm speaking about, this person, that I regularly get wonderful diatribes from this particular taxpayer who, as it turns out, usually doesn't have complete information or interprets what has been heard. And so it gives me an opportunity to reflect on, where did you come up with this? Because it's not a social media type of person. But it's helpful to build trust for all of us. Because I don't just speak for myself when it's like, well, no, you're not even close on what you think you understand. So enough of my soliloquy here. So anyway, I think I agree with Commissioner Gamble. We need to get the information. We need to hear from the people, and how to do that, I don't know the best way. Because, they're not in the habit of being listened to, and two, being busy isn't a good enough excuse, but it's a very valid reason for many people not actively coming to any meetings here.
Administrator Trevo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a really important topic and discussion, and it's something that has come up several times in my few months here in this role and position. And so I wonder, I know we have an upcoming work session, and I wonder if this would be an appropriate topic for us to discuss at the work session about how do we engage the community? What does community feedback look like for us, and how do we want to move forward? I agree that I think at this point, regarding the legislative items for 2026, much of that work has been done. And so I think we are behind if we were to engage the community at this point in being a part of the decision-making process. We could certainly provide information about the items that have been selected by AMC, but they've already been identified. So encouraging them to provide feedback at this point on those items would not be as helpful if it happened a month ago. So that would be my recommendation for the board at this point, is that we have a future discussion about what does community input look like for us when we're making decisions.
And that's the reason I brought it up the way I did, because I really feel that it is a good topic for our work session.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the discussion. What I would say is that when we say these are our priorities moving into 2026, if we represent the public asks themselves, well, who's defining those priorities? And so it is, you can conclude that the public says, I elected you to represent me, but you didn't ask me what my priorities are. So I think when we look at our stakeholders, we have the business community, which includes the tourism community. We have the townships, we have the county, we have the city, we have, the special interest groups. And the public needs to see, where are we in this? And granted that we're available if you want to contact us, but our accessibility is an issue. I think we need to be proactive and not reactive, that we invite the dialogue as opposed to saying you can always get in touch with us when we can. And when there's the discipline of making it something that is anticipated and proactive in that regard, I think it sends a message to the public. We do want to hear from you. And to the extent that their voice is identified in the documents that we produce, that's just going to cultivate a healthy culture. So I think it'd definitely be a good discussion. I think there are a lot of things that we need to start having discussions on, and we need to roll up our sleeves and work in those discussions with the intent of how can we make things better. And so I would agree that those are all healthy things. And as I've said many times, an awful lot of things to have to address, but we don't want to be weary in well-doing. We want to continue to improve, and we have that potential and that opportunity. So,
Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my hope is that commissioners in their meetings that they're having with constituents are regularly updating them, telling them about what's happening in our policy committees. I think just of recent, I met with the Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway, with Cook County Coalition of Lakes. I've shared all of that information, both federal and state level, with them and had discussions about what's going on with our waste treatment plant in Grand Marais. And so I feel like a number of people are informed, but I think we need to be very mindful of every meeting we go to, updating our community on what is going on and what are the discussions.
Commissioner White?
And to the point about lobbyists and what they do, I actually got a question on that, like, well, aren't we spending an awful lot of time? I mean, who decides? Who decides? And so we go there and like, why do we need to worry about the wastewater treatment? And well, actually, that's a poor example because everyone's concerned about it. But just the fact that how this happens is people don't know. So I'm, as I say, that the voters need to hold on and pay attention because things are changing. And they have a responsibility. Now, we're going to listen, and you have a responsibility to speak. So,
Okay, thank you. Anything else with
Yeah.
Administrator?
Yes, so going back to my question, do the commissioners agree with the letter of support or resolution for the wastewater treatment?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Very much so.
Okay, very
Yes.
much,
Very much
okay.
so.
And then in terms of the Cook County priorities, the Gunflint Trail has been identified as the #1 priority with the highway department and the lobbyists that we have hired. That's the project for this next year. So we have started that work and have had a number of meetings and discussions about the Gunflint Trail. My question is, do we want to add the government center and courthouse security needs as another potential legislative priority for this next year, knowing that oftentimes it takes a few years of conversation about future needs as we move forward with the legislature? So as we update our CIP, do we want to start working with our lobbyists to let him know that this will be a future priority for us to ensure that we can secure resources as we move forward?
Yeah.
I hear nods.
is there anything else? Is there anything else that would be a priority? I mean, we have a number of issues, but
So we had identified a list of legislative priorities back in October when we had the legislative luncheon that had a number of items. Many of those are items that are being worked on through AMC or our statewide items. And the two that would be unique and specific to Cook County would be the Gunflint Trail and the Government Center. So trying to kind of bifurcate what other organizations are working on. We would partner with them on continuing to advocate for those as we move forward, but really working with our lobbyists on what are the things that are unique and specific to Cook County.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, are we still thinking about having, the Justice Center eventually some year? Or are we going to put our thoughts and monies into courthouse? Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, so I think we have solidly passed on the Justice Center when we did the Law Enforcement Center expansion. Court security is still an outstanding need, and because of the structure and space of this building, it will practically require another building or an addition, a substantial addition to this building, something. And the previous talk, not that it's still valid, but I think there's a lot of merit to it, was that where the recycling center is, since the solid waste transfer station is going to, in the not too distant future, be incorporating the recycling, that there could be opportunity there for a different building. And in the building committee years ago, we heard from the highway department needing space, human resources did, public health did. Now we have this space in the basement, so that's part of, I think, what BKB is going to help us determine is what our actual and future needs will be. Also, in the Food Access Council, there has been discussion requests for a larger, more substantial county-supported food shelf building, and just space for that. And so I thought that was really interesting. And of course, the budget shop is very valued by our community, and so allowing for space with that. But there's a lot of needs that can maybe be wrapped up into one. I was also going to say that kind of request is going to be more appropriate in the bonding year, but it makes a lot of sense to talk the year before that about what our request may be in the future. So that's all my thoughts there. The only other thing I'd say is, I feel pretty well connected with the community and get a lot of feedback everywhere I go, and I think it's always good to get more feedback and different voices. I'm in a lot of different circles, but I'm sure there's circles I'm not in, and so it's important to hear from everyone. And I share everything I can and with anyone I talk to. But one of the things I hear a lot about still is childcare. There's still, this is just ongoing. There's not enough slots, and if we want a healthy community, we need that diversity. We need the families. We need families moving here or staying here and growing a family. And so I think we should really have some more focus on that. And in the past, Senator Houschild has been very supportive and very curious about the efforts we have made. And so continuing that conversation, I think, would be good for our community.
Commissioner Sullivan?
I just want to piggyback on what Commissioner Mills said regarding childcare, and that is a focus that Senator Houschild has spoken about at the legislature for this year. In fact, I saw last night on KBJR that he made reference to it, so I think that would be very reasonable.
So besides the Gunflint Trail, was there something else we wanted to add for Cook County?
Security.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, appreciate the discussion. As far as a government center, on the heels of what we've done right now, I think, and we have this CIP, I think there's discussion that has to look at our alternatives. And granted that discussion that is pre-existed prior to my coming on board here, respectfully, not having been part of that discussion, I don't know how much has been done in that regard, looking at ways we can address this without having to build another building. I think all of the points that Commissioner Mills brought up on things that are valuable to our community and this and that, and what are we going to do if this goes away, I think that's part of the discussion that needs to happen when we're doing this assessment. But I would not recommend, well, number one, I think we need to focus on the things that are our number one priority that we've been looking at. I agree with the strategy that Ken said we need to get it before them, because if we rabbit punch them enough, maybe at some point that they'll get tender and respond. But I would not be making that. I think we need to identify some things that we've made motions on right now before we would actually put that on there, especially on the heels of the commitments we made with bonding right now. The other thing relative to childcare, I think we need to step back and look at, and again, respectfully, if we've done this, we've done this. But I see that young families are families that have children. And our decisions, because we say that we want to nurture young families and make it affordable in our community. And if you talk about housing, we talk about affordable housing. Now we don't talk about housing as affordable. We talk about as attainable, because affordable might not be the case, but it's attainable. We're eventually going to move to it's available, which is simply saying it's there, but nobody can afford it. So my point relative to childcare is that we need to look at all of the decisions that impact what we say we want to nurture and maintain young families, because a lot of the decisions we're making are working against. So it's one step forward, two steps back.
So is it fair to say at this point that the county's number one legislative priority for 2026 would be the Gunflint Trail? And then we can continue to discuss childcare and how we could support that this year, as well as, once we get more information from the CIP on the government center, how we could potentially support that in the future. Is that a fair assessment?
I would agree, and I would say that we've invested money in a reputable firm to represent us on this issue, saying that it is important enough that we're putting some money behind it. It's significant. It's an artery in our community that's huge. So, yeah, we're not asking for everything, but we are asking for this. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
So I have
Thank
two just other brief updates. And actually, we do need to go through the committee assignments as well. But let me provide you my two updates while Jana pulls up our spreadsheet. The first one is the federal freeze. We are monitoring that, and we will provide more information to the commissioners as soon as we have information. At this point in time, we don't have specifics. So they have provided us with a website that they will be updating, and so we have access to that. I've provided it to all of you as well, and our Health and Human Services is monitoring, as well as myself, so we'll provide any information that we have in the future, but right now it's just kind of wait and see on that. The other update I have is regarding our two large projects that we have, our law enforcement center and our transfer station. The law enforcement center, the last of the panels are going to go up today, so I'm excited to drive by later today and see what that looks like. The bar joists and roof decking will also be delivered later this week, and they're starting to install hopefully early next week, depending on the weather. So that continues to move forward very well. The transfer station, the roof will be going on in the next week on the upper section, and they're finishing the lower section. They are also simultaneously doing what they can on the interior with plumbing and other work, but that will really kick up once they have the exterior closed up. So both projects are moving forward very well. That's all of my updates for today.
Okay, and just a preface to the committees and boards. As of this morning, Commissioner Gamble will be representing us with childcare. There was a lack of committees and holes that he had, number-wise, and so I looked at what I have and looked at a couple, 3 different areas, and I discussed it with him, and he would like to represent us on childcare. There's, we've had 3 years of, as Commissioner Mills stated, of challenges, and we've come a long ways, and Commissioner Gamble will be refreshed with all of that when that committee starts in. So I didn't get a chance to send it to Jana, but you can make that correction. Thank you, Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, so there were a number of other changes, I shouldn't say changes, items that there were questions about at the organizational meeting that we were going to get back to the commissioners on. And so Jana has pulled up the spreadsheet. Is there any chance you can make it bigger, Jana? Or can you walk through the notes and the changes you made?
Yeah, I don't know if I can make it bigger in the PowerPoint.
That's okay.
May not be
If
able to.
you
Okay.
wouldn't mind walking through the change.
Yeah, and like one, I added notes just to provide more helpful information for like the AMC Policy Committee on Solid Waste. Noted that it's a subcommittee of the AMC Policy Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources. The AMC Policy Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Noted that we're having Robbie at the Highway Department serve as the main representative for that. Let's see what else. Arrowhead Transit Advisory Committee noted that that is a subset of AEOA. All right, and I'll go to the next page and see what we've got there. For the Community Leadership Committee, I just noted that it's suggested, or I guess maybe not suggested, statute, if a quorum of commissioners is in attendance, that the agenda should be posted. Yeah. Anyway, just a reminder. For the Cook County Extension Committee, I just wanted to note that per statute, 2 commissioners serve on that committee. It's not a primary and alternate, so Commissioner Storley and Gamble both serve as representatives on that. Cook County Healthcare Planning Committee, we're putting that in as a placeholder right now. And I can't remember.
Jana, there were a few. There was this, a soil committee that we had, let me look at my notes here. I know there were a couple that we had recommended sunsetting.
Oh, right. And those will be later in the spreadsheet, probably.
Yeah.
I added a column right after the border committee name for status, so you can see all of these are active, and then I sorted it by status. So later in the spreadsheet, here I'll go forward a little bit. You'll see the various committees that I'm noting as inactive for now, and then I've got notes, we've removed it or made it inactive on this spreadsheet because it hasn't met for a while or, isn't currently active. So does that answer that
does.
question?
So for example, we had an outstanding question on the slash disposal committee. So we did check in with Tim Nelson and Mike Keyport, and it has not met in over 6 years. And so that would be one that we recommended would be taken off the list. There was also the septic appeals panel, and that's identified with our septic ordinance, so that has to continue.
Okay.
The solid waste committee, I think the feedback that we received is that should continue at this point as well. So I know those 3, the commissioners had asked us to follow up on. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware. We did follow up on those, and Jana has updated the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I think that was it, Jana.
I think so. Again, any notes or helpful information, or maybe helpful information, I've put in the notes section. And again, I've resorted it based on the status. And you'll see too, like the slide that I'm showing right now, a number of meetings or committees I put ad hoc because they meet as needed. So. And as we get more information, this can be updated. I'll note too that just so that it wasn't super tiny to read at today's meeting, I hid some columns that note the date and the time and the location that they meet. But when I share the updated spreadsheet with all of you, I'll include it all. Maybe I'll. Do you guys want paper copies?
I do.
Or no? Okay, yeah. So otherwise, this is something that I will get updated on SharePoint, and if you ever visit that, there's a button that you can click on the home page and be able to view this. So.
And then at what point will we update our website?
I'll be working on that next. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a matter of like going.
No
into
point in
each-
doing that till this is perfect.
But
Correct.
yeah, and this is pretty close to
Yeah.
being done. So yeah, the next step is for me to go into iCompass and you go into each committee and update the representatives and things like that. So.
And I would like to say, Commissioner Storley and Commissioner Gamble, I appreciate you working a little bit to better balance our commissioner assignments. It's much closer now than it was, so thank you.
Okay. And what is the official name of that committee that Gary is going to be taking over, the child care committee? What is the, is that an AMC
It's called the
committee?
Cook County Child Care Solutions.
Okay, cool, great. Thank you.
Okay on that? Anything else? Okay.
Madam Chair, I would just say that, that the overall assessment of committees and the criteria that determines what we participate on, we've done some massaging on it, but I think it's a discussion. If you're looking at discussions, this is a discussion that needs to be had. And it's similar with the non-discretionary. That's another thing that's a subject that needs to be had. And when we come to the new year and then we just sort of bump and roll over it and then we just go on the way we go on, I think we have to have a discussion and criteria needs to be applied. And part of that is if we're ex officio or whether we're voting or what the deal is. And there's other ways of being able to get information, and that influences our participation in the leadership, for the community. And as that becomes more substantive, that becomes a means of communication. So, I mean, I will be attending the hospital committee meeting this week, but I will thank them for the opportunity to participate. I mean, to be there as an observer, but I'm not going to participate. And it's a matter of, it's not that the hospital certainly isn't an important issue, but we have to find other ways of being able to get the information we need to inform decisions. So that's something definitely, if you were asking me what we should be looking at some point we need to have a deeper dive.
As Administrator Treble has set up our first work session, the end of January, this would be topics for future work sessions and how we can address all that. Okay, moving on to commissioner reports, meeting updates. What's happening? Commissioner Sullivan.
All right, so back in mid-December, we had our HRA meeting. Commissioner Gamble was there as well, and one of the really nice things is that we had Andrew Beavers from Land Services come and speak to us about vacation rentals. It was a little bit different presentation than we had as commissioners, but it was really nice to see the data that was provided to the HRA. And at that meeting, they signed conflict of interest forms, and we're also notified that the $250,000 loan for Birchwood Apartments was repaid, that closed. So that is all in good order prior to the end of the year. Cook County Historical Society just focused on talking about updates related to the Chippewa City Church and the work that they are doing, and hoping that through legacy grants, they can get some support through there. Commissioner White and I both attended the Highway Department meeting and talked a little bit about some of the work that's been done by the lobbyist and kind of directions to head. Airport Advisory Commission reviewed the report that came from MnDOT Aeronautics when they did their inspection and all the different corrections and things that have been done. We also, as a group, did not replace the 2 board members who left Airport Advisory. Conscious decision that because of open meeting law, we didn't need to have as many people because people could be there, be part of a quorum, and vote even if they're not physically in attendance. That will also save some money off the budget for 2026, so feel really good about that. And then Personnel Committee, I was there as one of the 2 commissioners. Commissioner Gamble and I sit on that, but my recommendation was that we don't need 2 commissioners on the Personnel Committee. We go to 1. And just so everybody is aware of that. Attended the Solid Waste Work Group with AMC, and we talked just about policies related to solid waste that would be going forward, and discussions about in the legislature, even though we have our legislative priorities, there will be discussion about e-waste and batteries and really promoting product stewardship rather than counties or taxpayers picking up the costs for that. Talked about the importance of changing some rules related to construction and demolition in landfills, and that we still do have a goal of a 90% reduction in waste by 2040. That's a ways off, but it causes us to really think about what's happening in our landfills, what we need to do with recycling, and making sure we're continuing to keep our eye on that. Safety Committee met and talked a little bit about fire policies and procedures. There's a calendar being developed for drills here at the courthouse, and development of courthouse maps to indicate where smoke alarms are, where people exit, where are the pull stations, those types of things. Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway met this week and is putting together a calendar. They meet every other month for the year, and just updated us on some dates related to July 22nd, our Pull Plant and Protect event. Cook County Coalition of Lake Associations met, and they are focusing right now on some work related to copper nickel mining and getting information out, and legislative engagement, community outreach, and potential partnerships. So more to come on that, but they are drafting a letter that they're sharing with lake associations. Soil and Water Conservation District met, and they did their officers and appointments for the year, talked about the new paid leave policy, and then what was really interesting, something I've been trying to figure out how do we do this, is what to do with phones. Their staff do not have phones like some of our departments where they are issued a county phone, but they have a cell phone reimbursement policy. And I've been talking about how do commissioners get some type of reimbursement for what we have. They have a policy where they get $25 back a month. So anyway, I have pulled that policy. I'm going to work on kind of rewriting it and seeing if it might be something we'd be interested in for 2027 for our particular group. But it was a very well-written model, which was approved the other day. Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Collaborative met. We had U.S. Forest Service updates, talked about changes in potential visitor policies and visitor services, fee proposals, permitting, AIS. Again, this group only makes recommendations to the U.S. Forest Service. We are not a decision-making group, but very nice to see the collaboration with the business community, outfitters, resort owners, members of the DNR and the U.S. Forest Service and citizens here all contributing to that process. And lastly, we had our community leadership meeting last Thursday. We focused on healthcare, and we'll provide information or the minutes for everybody that was unable to attend.
Anyone else?
Oh, a question just about the healthcare. What about healthcare?
So Kimber Ralsted put together 3 summary documents to share with us, and I'll just send those out directly with the minutes so you have it directly from Kimber. I'll do that right now.
Yep, my interest is in providing more healthcare for the community, and so I'm hoping someday, if possible, all members of the chamber can have a pool versus having an employer with 1 or 2 employees trying to afford healthcare. It doesn't work. So, but we have provided benefits for the HRA and the EDA because a member of one doesn't work under our pool either. So. That's what I was asking, if it was about
Gotcha.
that sort of thing, or just,
We
it's
did
just the
not talk
healthcare
about
in the
that.
county. Okay.
Yeah.
Providing it, gotcha.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The leadership meeting, as I mentioned briefly before, is it's finding its way as to how to be effective and make that more than just getting together and so there was discussion as to how we should operate, what our intent is, why we are coming together, whether we would have notes or not, and so we're looking at it from any legal obligation, but our primary intent is so the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, and we have appreciation for all the different leadership components within our county. So I think that's really beneficial, and I think it's a healthy exercise to define who we are and how we're going to operate. And to the extent that if this becomes a mechanism for information, that all commissioners are invited to attend, then we find out if our voice would be, through our county administrator so that we aren't overwhelming the discussion. And if there's something that's specific to a particular district, that might be, handled that way. But again, understanding how this group will operate, I think can be a lot more significant and meaningful, so that's beneficial. The hospital board meeting, there was a presentation which I alluded to in the leadership meeting that they had done an internal, using a facilitator evaluation with staff, and it was significant, the change in the realities of the work environment, and the facilitator made a concerted effort to underscore the fact that this is significant. They don't see this change like this at this degree. So that's a positive thing. I think when you look at the change in the board and you look at all that comes with the uncertainty and change, and you look at the pressures on the funding when it comes to health care, that managing all of this and focusing on a culture that maximizes the staff's ability to provide health care, I saw that as a very positive thing, and that's something I'm going to allude to when I talk to him in the meeting this week, that I appreciate what I've seen in the growth in that way and the attention to culture. ARC, they were present at the last Association of Minnesota Counties. They would have liked to have had more people show up, but we found that in participating in some of those workshops that they weren't all, packed with a number of attendees. But it was good to have a presence, and ARC continues to provide resources to help with the issue of corrections that are impressive. And when we look within the state and when we look even within the region, ARC stands out. And so how we can best use that resource as a county is something that I think we should have a discussion on. Putting people in an environment when it comes to corrections where we help those people grow and contribute to their sense of well-being is huge. And the testimonial letters that get written that are from current attendees as well as those that have been there years ago is testimony to their effectiveness. The restorative justice is moved, and this was addressed in the leadership meeting. Sam addressed it as a board member for the hospital. They're moving to a not-for-profit organization, so there's changes that are there. Northern counties, with a change in the chair position there, not the chair position, but the administrative support. John Ongaro is there now. They had a long-standing individual that was the administrative facilitator there, and he had retired, so John stepped in that position. He's also on the other board, the ARC, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And John has been a long-standing lobbyist on behalf of St. Louis County. So they're changing their branding and they're changing their website, and they still are focusing on the payment of lieu of taxes PILT issue. And they will have their annual dinner inviting legislators during the legislative session to Mancini's. Last year was probably the most successful of that. We were packed out with a lot of participants. So good dialogue there. The Parks and Trails moving forward with this request for a proposal relative to regional designation. So I know I've had some questions from individuals as where we're at on that and where we're at with the Preserve the Bluff. But I think ways that we can communicate the effectiveness of committees that we sit on and communicate to the community that it's worth their investment of our time and resources important. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll just be really short. Northwood's food project met, and that goes pretty well in hand with the Cook County Food Access Council, and I talked about that, and they're discussing the super shelf, and that should be open. Well, I don't think it is quite, but they're moving, and but it's a small space, so they're looking for volunteers, but not too many. But the food project is more focused on supporting farmers and how to get the food to the community, and just trying to collaborate there. There's been an initiative, I think, well, it's really early yet, but through the clinic about food as medicine and getting prescriptive diets, and how that they can work directly with farmers there. So that's kind of exciting. Benefits of wellness. There'll be a survey going out to employees asking about our benefits and insurance packages, and then after that moving on to some of the wellness programs. And a lot of that's out of our control, but we were hoping to really get a broader perspective on what the employees are looking for and liking and not liking. And then EDA HR committee met and talking about the SBDC consultant that will hopefully be hired on or contracted on the 20th, and then our executive director search is in process. We'll be meeting to review applicants, and we'll see where that goes, but it seems like a revolving door. So there's concern, but we're also leveraging the experience of both Jason Hale and Teresa Baida in navigating this and taking on some of the administration in the meanwhile. So that's probably all I have to share.
Okay. Commissioner White?
Well, you guys were really busy. I had Christmas and holidays, but I have some statistics for maybe it's my favorite board I sit on, the Hub. They did a recap of their Christmas program. And that is a program that's been ongoing for a number of years, but it gives the community an opportunity to help families who need help buying presents and/or food at Christmas time for their kids and their family members. They had, this program this last year, they had $9,000 in donations, cash donations. There were 43 families and 8 adults that were recipients of donations and money donations. And they did 8 adults this year. One was a homeless person, and so from there they were able to, besides helping the person with grocery cards, which were significant, and to send the person along to other agencies to help find housing for them, though temporary. But they had, and I also need to report that they got, from the Northland Foundation, they succeeded in getting a $22,000 grant to help pay for a new position for the activities director, because they're getting swamped with people in there doing activities. And they also got besides the regular donations of 1,000 or 100 or whatever, one community member bought window shades and installed them. So all the windows you no longer are glared at or there. But another community member gave a sizable tens of thousands of dollars donation to the Hub for recognizing the value of this place and hoping that the county, the statement was hoping the county could somehow help the Hub not have to scramble all the time for funding. So that was it. Hard at it.
That's your report?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, you were busy with Christmas.
Well, I was busy with Christmas, and then this week I will be doing the North Shore Management Board happens on Thursday, and then the Arrowhead Region Corrections is on Friday.
So you'll have more next month?
I'll have more next month.
Okay, good, thank you. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question for Commissioner Waite relative to the Hub. The Hub had investments.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering the status of the investments. Brady has alluded to the fact that interest rates have, returned higher returns than anticipated. And I'm just wondering as a funding mechanism where that sits.
That was a discussion. They, because of their cash flow shortfall, they had to cash in a CED beforehand, and they lost a $200 penalty on that one. But they are now moving, trying to strategize how, since they are receiving $22,000 and then another $25,000 from a donation, how to best put those funds either in a combination of another CD or in money market accounts so they can just pull it when they need it. And I don't know, they have, I think, 3 CDs, and I do not know the specifics of what types of interest they are getting. It was pretty good. They were keeping track of it. It was 4 point something the last time
I know
around.
they had the investments. CDs obviously do not give you the freedom,
right.
Without bearing penalty. But for organizations, and this is something that's been said, many years, but especially with the significant portion of the population that is leaving us, meaning passing away, and the amount of accumulated wealth with that population, that looking at establishing a trust like HRA is attempting to do. Having a fund that a portion of those monies that comes from interest earnings can be allocated towards operations, and keeping that fund, that looking at all the mechanisms. And when you're in a situation like they are now, not unlike many organizations, it is assessing how are we going to provide, and build, and certainly tapping into this demographic.
And that
There's
was discussed.
Significant resource there for people that believe and want to leave a legacy that
Yes.
helps people.
And that specifically was discussed
Yeah.
about, and it's, the hub needs to find another grant writer. I mean, nothing wrong with the last one, but need to find the grants that are out there that they would be available for, and then how to market so more people understand or even know what they are. And then they were also wondering, because this did come up, that would the city be interested in putting some money towards the hub? But the board recognizes that they need to get a fact sheet put together with a number of people that, and over months, how many people use the facility and in what capacity? Are they coming there to eat? Are they coming there for chair yoga, tai chi? What else do they do? Healthcare things, just discussion groups. But they're working on putting that fact sheet together, and then also they'll be going to the Lions. This is the time of year that the Lions looks at their resources to disseminate to the public. So they're not quitting, and they're really active on doing this, and they haven't turned the corner, but they're really getting better at figuring out. I mean, they've through the process of elimination, they're getting down to which avenues are really going to work. They do a weekly, on WTIP, a weekly report of what the hub is doing, but that's just one, so. It's worth keeping an eye on, and indeed, if you want to leave a legacy in this county that will go on, the hub would be one. I do know that there are people that have identified the library, or, in our passing, we'll give it to the library. And the school had also at one point made an effort, and I don't know how far they got on that either, but leave us in your will, something, so.
Okay, thank you. Next week, I'll report from NACO. We're getting our priorities together for the February meeting in Washington DC, so I'll report on that. Then I have other meetings coming up, Arrowhead and ARDC and on, like you.
Yeah.
I'll have a better report. Okay, so we'll move on then to meetings to note for upcoming week, and the important one is that Monday is Martin Luther King's birthday, so the courthouse will be closed on Monday, January 19th. In our packet, we've also received corresponding memos from the lodging tax from October and also for November. And now we have recognition of staff. The January staff anniversaries are Liz Niemeyer from Public Health and Human Services, 1 year. Ann Paulson, Soil and Water, 2 years. Caleb Johnson on maintenance, 2 years. Max Torstensen, Soil and Water, 2 years. Will Schmidtauer, Highway Department, 2 years. Ariel Charlier, PHHS, 3 years. Andrea Tofty, PHHS, 4 years. Nathan Carlson, Highway Department, 4 years. Brody Smith, Land Services, West End Recycling Center, 8 years. Mitch Travis from Land Services, 9 years. Leah Ekstrom, MIS, 11 years. Holly Schroeder from Recorder's Office, 27 years. And right to my left, we have a milestone anniversary. Adriana Brisson, Auditor's Office, 5 years. Congratulations, everyone.
Should we turn the camera or make her stand up?
She's bashful. And there being no other business, we are adjourned.
Madam Chair, I had an additional item on the agenda that was just regarding the request for proposals for photographs for the Community Resource Directory website. Which department is this coming out of?
Public health.
It is Public Health, yeah.
The grant source is through public health.
Okay.
So it is an effort through public health, but it is now a partnership now that we have a PIC on board. So she is assisting with it as well.
Okay. These are grant dollars then?
Correct.
That were designated for
Correct.
such a thing? Okay, all right. Yeah, and I just wanted to get a better understanding of where that was coming from, so. All right, thank you.
Okay.
We can talk a little bit more about.
I did double check with Grace to make sure that.